Okay, viewers, well, got my Chinese knockoff of Evakool EM55 fridge. I loaded a fan, an extra fan to draw air out of this compartment to keep this compressor cool, and also this driver board, which is pretty hot. I've noticed that this it struggles to start the compressor and run for more than 10 seconds or so, even though the battery's got full voltage. I've traced it down to this controller, which is a common issue on these Damas compressors, so I've ordered a new one. This is an improved one. There's a nice thicker coating of plastic in there too, so these things are moisture proof and dust proof. Fits both a T26K and T34K compressors. T34K is slightly bigger than this one. There's junkier compressors out there in the market than these Damas ones, so overall a pretty good fridge, even though it's a Chinese knockoff of an Evakool EM55, which is exactly the same as this, identical, except it's not stainless steel and it's different colour. But the parts are interchangeable. I think the Evakools won't even use a Damas compressor, or a Unitherm C-Cop compressor. I know the brass smoky ones use some other Chinese compressor. It's not a Damas, it's something else, but it's always good to stick to good brands and stuff like this. Pretty much just goes straight in. It's a bit different pinout though. I have to try and look at the pinout of this one. The pinouts are different. So I've got F, V, fan, those two, which are those two there. Positive or PC, which bridge PC together. Voltage plus and voltage minus, which goes up here. Anyway, I'll just get to take a photo beforehand. So that's what I'm going to do. Take a photo of that beforehand before I install that. Double check we get everything right. But that's just what drives the motor. There's a BLDC motor drive for that board, and that drives the motor inside here, which is a BLDC motor. I've taken this off and I've put positive and negative to the top two pins of that compressor, or two of the pins, and it pulsed one way or the other way, because I wasn't sure if the compressor motor would die or not. It's a good way to check, but it was fine. Something in 2010 or something, and there it was made. That fan wasn't doing much, so I've added this little servo fan in there as well, and that's tremendously helped cool this thing down. Just wired with the other fan there. Anyway, let's replace this driver board. This is supposed to be a 3000 RPM driver board, so let's have a look. Okay, I got it in there. It's a bit of a challenge because the way this is all mounted. You got a thick or thinner wall of plastic there. This is actually a metal heatsink, which is instead of this one here. This whole thing is all metal and it's thicker, and it doesn't quite line up on that screw, so it's a bit of a challenge, but I got it on there. So it's 3/4 of the way screwed down, that's it. I'll strip the threads without having to replace that screw. But basically you got your common in the middle, your black, and you got a white wire with nothing on it and a red wire. So you got positive and negative. So those two there are positive and negative, and you got a common wire, which is this one here with the arrow pointing to it. But basically, if you want to test the compressor, you get a battery, interchange those two around, pulse it, and it makes the rotor in there move. And you could make a little driver board, or even a little AC inverter you can make to drive that. This is a original board. Hasn't got as much plastic in there on the circuit board protecting it. That one there has. It's an improved board. It's well sealed. Well, that can some capacitors on here have dried out or something, but it works fine. But it would just sometimes it would start, run for 2 seconds and shut off, like the compressor was being overloaded or something, but it wasn't. Like it's just behaving weirdly. And there's a big delay when this thing has power on it. When you plug the fridge and turn it on, the compressor doesn't start right away. You have to wait like 5 minutes or something, and then it starts. So this is a common problem with these Damas compressors. Not overall a bad compressor for a Chinese thing. It's just that's not a variable speed compressor, it's a fixed speed, so they draw a bit of power. That's the only drawback with these compressors. I've had a bit of a rubber on there, so I'll fix that. Make sure no pipes are rubbing. While I got it open, I'll check all this, make sure I've got no pipes rubbed through. Because it does get bumped around a little bit. Something you've got to be careful of any car fridges. Angles are the exception, they're designed to bump around, but these cheaper ones, they're not designed to be bumped around, so to speak. So I've added that down there for it's done a tremendous job getting the hot out of this thing, especially the back of my canopy gets a bit warm in there, so I open the side windows and that helps. I probably could change that fan too, maybe I will. Find one that's the same voltage, the same size, but has a much higher velocity. Young Ling Tech Co Limited DC brushless fan. The Rayco ones are a high velocity fan, because that fan seems a bit inadequate anyway, you know? That's why I put that there to help it. Anyway, let's put it back together and give it a try. Is it hooked up correctly? Okay, it's back in service now. It hasn't started up yet though. Must just be a characteristic of these fridges. Well, that's waiting to start up. Let's tear this one and have a look inside it in detail. Here we go. 105 degrees Celsius rated caps, which is alright. Higher temperature caps isn't a bad thing. There's your driver chips. And underneath that heatsink, and there's MOSFETs under there. On that heatsink, the main driver MOSFETs. Temperature must be T here, which comes off the temperature controller board. So the temperature controller board would be my next plan of attack, but I've heard this is a common thing to start with that has failed pretty frequently on these damaged units. We'll see how it goes, but if it does get still problems, then there's probably the temperature controller will be the next thing I'd roll out, which you can get a good aftermarket one anyway, a universal one if that's the case. But the replacement one of these driver boards just put in there is an improvement over this one. You see, so these come off the MOSFETs inside here. Board, I don't know if this board can come off. Let's see if this board can come off this plastic bit. Have a good detailed look. Okay, we've got some MOSFET there, we've got a MOSFET there. Then we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 MOSFETs under there. There we go. And then the motor drive MOSFETs. 6 of them. There's some shunts there going across them. It's pretty much like a VFD for AC motors, but for DC pulsing, B or DC motor. Anyway, that'll be enough for now. Thanks for watching. Okay, well the new SY Beier control board actually works now. Literally 5 minutes after I stopped the video, it's started up. This behaves a little differently. I just played with the temperature before and it wasn't starting up. This one's behaves differently to other brands, so you have to wait for it to start up and then you can set your temperature. Normally you can just, like with the Raycos for example, you can lower the temperature down below the setting and it would start up and start with the angles, but this one didn't do that. That's just a different characteristic, I suppose, being a cheap fridge. But I'm pretty happy with it so far. It was kind of annoying having it not work half the time, not reliable, so hopefully that's going to fix the problem. Anyway, yeah, let that hot air get out of there. Let that get probably I might invest in some roof vents too. Get some weatherproof venting on this canopy so I can get some air circulation in this thing when I'm driving. Wouldn't be a bad idea, especially now they've got a fridge in there. Most people have them out in the cover, out in the open in the back of their utes, but I don't want to do that. I want to protect it a bit better. Anyway, that'll be enough for now. Thanks for watching.